The wedding invitation sits on Cassian Wu's desk like a declaration of war. Gold-embossed letters spelling out his ex-fiancée's name, Alara Park, marrying Victor Han, the golden heir to a corporate empire built on smiles and lies. Cassian doesn't flinch. He's built his fortune in the shadows, where empires are carved from blood and silence. They expect him broken. Instead, he feels ice crystallizing in his veins. He won't show up defeated. He'll arrive with someone who makes Alara's perfect wedding look like a funeral. And when he finds Naomi Vale, a sommelier who doesn't bow to power, he offers her $50,000 to play the role. She refuses. Until she doesn't. The moment she agrees, neither of them realizes they've just lit a fuse that will burn them both. If you want to see how this storm ends, follow this story to the very last word. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this tale travels. Ishit pot. Cassian Wu held the invitation between two fingers like it might combust. The paper was heavy, expensive, the kind that announced wealth before you even read the words. Gold script, embossed roses, Alara Park and Victor Han request the honor of your presence. He didn't laugh. He didn't crumple it. He just set it down on the glass surface of his desk and stared at it like it was a chessboard mid-game. 30 floors below, the city pulsed with neon and noise. Up here, in his penthouse office, everything was silent except for the hum of ventilation and the faint clink of ice in his glass. Whiskey. Neat. He took a sip and let it burn. Alara. 3 years since she'd walked out. 3 years since she'd looked him in the eye and said, "You're going to die alone, Cassian, and you'll deserve it." He hadn't argued, because she was probably right. But now she was marrying Victor Han, a man whose entire existence was a PowerPoint presentation. Clean, polished, perfectly curated. Victor's family owned half the city's commercial real estate. They threw charity galas. They smiled for cameras. They didn't know what it was like to build something from nothing, to claw your way up from basements and back alleys where deals were made with broken noses and blood on your knuckles. Cassian had built his empire in those basements, and he wore it well. He picked up his phone and dialed. "Marcus? Boss?" The voice on the other end was clipped, efficient. "I need a date for a wedding." A pause. "You want me to find someone?" "Someone sharp, someone who won't flinch when the room gets ugly." "What kind of wedding are we talking about?" "The kind where I'm the cautionary tale." Marcus exhaled slowly. "I'll see what I can do." Cassian ended the call and drained his glass. The whiskey didn't help. It never did. But it gave him something to do with his hands while his mind turned over strategies, angles, vulnerabilities. He wasn't going to show up alone. He wasn't going to give Alara the satisfaction of seeing him fade into irrelevance. He was going to burn that wedding to the ground, just quietly. 2 days later, Marcus called him with an address. "There's a woman, sommelier at Nocturne, high-end clientele. She doesn't take shit from anyone." "Name?" "Naomi Vale." Cassian rolled the name around in his head. "She available?" "For 50 grand? Probably." "Set it up." Chet. Nocturne was the kind of restaurant where silence cost more than noise. Dark wood, low lighting, the air smelled like aged wine and old money. Cassian walked in wearing a charcoal suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent, and the hostess didn't ask if he had a reservation. She just led him to a corner table where he could watch the room. He didn't have to wait long. Naomi Vale moved through the dining room like she owned it. Not arrogant, just certain. She wore black, simple cut. No jewelry except small silver hoops in her ears. Her hair was pulled back tight, and her expression was neutral in a way that made you think she was taking notes. She stopped at a table where a man in a tailored suit was gesturing too broadly, voice too loud. Cassian couldn't hear the words, but he could read the body language. The man was performing. Naomi was listening. Then she spoke. It was quick, surgical. The man's face shifted from smug to confused to irritated in the span of 3 seconds. Naomi didn't blink. She just turned and walked back toward the bar, leaving him sitting there like someone had pulled the rug out from under his ego. Cassian felt a smile tug at the corner of his mouth. That's the one. He stood and intercepted her near the wine cellar entrance. "Ms. Vale." She stopped, turned, and looked him over with the kind of assessment usually reserved for wine lists. "Do I know you?" "Not yet." Her eyebrow arched. Then you're either a customer or a problem. Neither. I'm a proposal. She folded her arms. I don't take propositions. Good. I'm not offering one. He gestured to an empty booth. 5 minutes. She studied him for a long moment, then walked toward the booth without waiting for him. He followed. They sat across from each other. Naomi didn't lean back, didn't relax. Talk. Cassian liked her already. I need a partner for a wedding. Rent an escort. I need someone who can hold a conversation, someone who won't break under pressure. Still sounds like an escort. $50,000. One night. That got her attention. Not the wide-eyed kind, just a sharper focus. What's the catch? The wedding belongs to my ex-fiancée. She's marrying into old money. I'm the ghost she doesn't want haunting the ceremony. And you want to show up with arm candy to prove you've moved on. I want to show up with someone who makes them second-guess everything. Naomi leaned back now, eyes narrowing. Why me? Because you just dismantled a man twice your size without raising your voice. She smiled. It wasn't warm. Flattery doesn't work on me. Good. I'm not flattering you. I'm stating facts. She tapped her fingers on the table. What's the role? Art curator. My partner. We've been together 6 months. Lie. Performance. Same thing. Not if you're good at it. She stared at him for a long moment, and Cassian realized she was deciding whether he was worth the risk. 50,000, she said finally, cash, after the event. Before, half after. She considered that. Fine, but I have conditions. Go ahead. I'm not your prop. If someone asks me a question, I answer it my way. You don't script me. Agreed. I'm not sleeping with you. Wasn't planning on it. And if this turns into something illegal, I walk. No questions, no explanations. Cassian met her eyes. Fair. She extended her hand. He shook it. Her grip was firm, no hesitation. When's the wedding? 3 weeks. Then we start tomorrow. The next evening, Cassian met her at a gallery in the Arts District. It was one of his properties, a front, mostly, for moving money, but it had enough legitimate art to pass inspection. Naomi walked in wearing jeans and a leather jacket, and Cassian realized he'd never seen her outside the controlled environment of Nocturne. She looked different, sharper edges, less performance. Nice place, she said, glancing around. You actually own this? Among other things. Vague. I like it. She stopped in front of a painting, abstract dark reds and blacks bleeding into each other. This real? Depends on your definition. She shot him a look. Are you always this evasive? Are you always this direct? Touché. He led her to a back room where he'd set up a table with wine, cheese, and a folder full of documents. Homework, he said, tapping the folder. Naomi flipped it open. Inside were profiles, Alara Park, Victor Hahn, key family members, business associates. You're serious about this, she said. I don't do things halfway. She scanned the pages, her expression unreadable. Alara looks polished. She is. And Victor? Everything she thought I wasn't. Naomi glanced up. That bother you? No. Liar. Cassian poured 2 glasses of wine and slid one toward her. She took it, but didn't drink yet. What's your story? She asked. You read the folder. That's their story. I'm asking about yours. He leaned back against the table. I built a business. She wanted a different life. We didn't reconcile the difference. That's the sanitized version. It's the version you get. Naomi took a sip of wine, watching him over the rim of the glass. If we're going to sell this, I need to know who you actually are. You need to know the character I'm playing. Same thing. Not even close. She set the glass down. Fine. Then tell me about the character. Cassian exhaled. Cassian Wu. 34. Art collector. Self-made. Quiet money. Doesn't need to prove anything because he already has. And me? Naomi Vale. 30. Curator. Specialized in contemporary works. We met at an auction. You corrected my bid. I liked the audacity. She smiled. That part's believable. They spent the next 2 hours building the details. Favorite artists, first date, inside jokes. Naomi absorbed it all like she was studying a wine list, asking questions that cut deeper than Cassian expected. "Why'd you really break up with her?" she asked at one point. Cassian hesitated. "She wanted someone softer." "And you're not." "No." "Do you regret it?" He met her eyes. "Regret's expensive. I don't buy it." Naomi nodded slowly. "Good. I don't either." Over the next 2 weeks, they met 6 more times. Each session peeled back another layer. Naomi learned the cadence of Cassian's world, the way he moved through rooms, the way he listened more than he spoke, the way his silences carried weight, and Cassian learned her. She was ambitious, driven. She didn't apologize for wanting more than what she had. She talked about opening her own wine bar someday, something intimate, something hers. "Why haven't you?" he asked one night. "Money? Time? Fear?" Fear of what? Failing, succeeding, take your pick. He understood that. One evening, he brought her a velvet box. "What's this?" she asked, wary. "Open it." Inside were diamond earrings, subtle, expensive. She closed the box and handed it back. "No. It's part of the look. I don't need diamonds to look the part." "Then what do you need?" She thought for a moment. "A single pearl, simple, unyielding." He got her the pearl. The night before the wedding, they met one last time in Cassian's penthouse. The city sprawled below them, lights flickering like dying stars. Naomi stood at the window, her reflection ghostly in the glass. "You nervous?" Cassian asked. "Should I be?" "They're going to tear you apart if they sense weakness." She turned to face him. "Then it's a good thing I don't have any." He almost believed her. "Naomi." "Yeah?" "Thank you." She looked at him, really looked, and for a second, the performance dropped. "Don't thank me yet," she said quietly. "We haven't survived it." The wedding venue was a glass cathedral perched on a hillside overlooking the water. Everything gleamed, white roses, crystal chandeliers, a string quartet playing something soft and forgettable. Cassian and Naomi arrived exactly 15 minutes late. She wore red, not the soft blush pink every other woman in the room wore. Deep scarlet silk that moved like water, cut sharp at the shoulders, a slit that suggested danger without announcing it. The room noticed. Conversations paused. Eyes tracked their movement. Whispers rippled outward like a stone dropped in still water. Cassian kept his hand light on the small of her back, present, not possessive. They moved through the crowd like they belonged, and somehow, impossibly, they did. Alara saw them first. She stood near the altar in a gown that probably cost 6 figures, all lace and tradition. Her smile was perfect. Too perfect. But when her eyes landed on Naomi, something flickered. Cassian felt it. The shift. The crack. Victor Hahn approached, hand extended. "Cassian, glad you could make it." They shook hands. Victor's grip was firm but performative. "Victor, congratulations." Victor's gaze slid to Naomi. "And you are?" "Naomi Vale." She didn't offer her hand. "Pleasure." Victor smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "What do you do, Naomi?" "I curate." "Art?" "Experiences." Cassian almost laughed. Victor's smile tightened. "Well, enjoy the evening." He walked away and Naomi leaned in slightly. "He's exactly what you described. Told you." "Also," she added, "he looked at my chest twice in 10 seconds. I noticed. Should I be flattered or disgusted?" "Both," she smirked. They found their seats near the back. Not exiled, but not prominent. Exactly where Cassian expected. The ceremony began. Alara floated down the aisle like something out of a commercial. Victor waited at the altar with a smile that belonged on a campaign poster. Cassian watched, detached. But Naomi watched Alara like she was reading a text she'd already memorized. "She's terrified," Naomi whispered. Cassian glanced at her. "What?" "Look at her hands." He did. Alara's fingers were white-knuckled around her bouquet. She doesn't love him, Naomi continued, voice barely audible. She's performing too. Something cold settled in Cassian's chest. The officiant droned on. Vows were exchanged. Rings slid into place. The kiss was tasteful, brief. Applause. And then it was over. The reception was a different kind of war. Champagne flowed, the band played, conversations buzzed with the kind of energy that came from people who knew they were being watched. Cassian and Naomi moved through it like smoke. They danced once, just enough to be seen. Naomi followed his lead, but only just. She made it look effortless. "You're good at this," he murmured. "So are you." "I've had practice." "Lying?" "Surviving." She didn't respond, but her hand tightened slightly on his shoulder. When the song ended, they separated. Cassian went to the bar. Naomi drifted toward a cluster of women near the dessert table. He watched her work the room, subtle, graceful, never pushing but always present. And then Elara appeared at his side. "Cassian," he turned. Up close she looked older, tired beneath the makeup. "Elara, beautiful ceremony." "Thank you." She glanced toward Naomi. "Who is she?" "Someone I'm seeing." "She's lovely." "She is." Elara's smile was thin. "I'm glad you're doing well." "Are you?" Her eyes hardened. "Don't do this." "Do what?" "Play games. Not tonight." Cassian took a sip of his drink. "I'm not playing anything." "Then why are you here?" He met her gaze. "You invited me." "I didn't think you'd actually come." "Then you don't know me as well as you thought." She flinched, just slightly. "Excuse me," she said, and walked away. Cassian felt nothing. An hour later, Naomi found him on the terrace. The night air was cool, sharp. "You good?" she asked. "Fine." She leaned against the railing beside him. "Elara cornered you." "Briefly." "What'd she say?" "Nothing important." Naomi studied him. "You're lying again." He didn't deny it. They stood in silence for a moment, the city glittering below. "This was a mistake," Cassian said quietly. "The wedding?" "Coming here. Thinking it would change anything." Naomi turned to face him. "Then why did you?" He didn't answer. "Cassian." He looked at her, really looked. And in that moment, standing on a terrace above a wedding he didn't belong at, with a woman he'd hired to play a role, something shifted. "I don't know," he admitted. Naomi's expression softened, just slightly. "Then let's find out," she said. Before he could respond, the terrace door opened. Victor Hahn stepped out, champagne in hand, smile sharp. "There you are," Victor said. "I was hoping we'd get a chance to talk." Cassian straightened. Naomi didn't move. Victor's eyes flicked between them. "You know, Cassian, Elara told me a lot about you." "I'm sure she did." "She said you were dangerous." "Did she?" Victor's smile widened. "I didn't believe her. But now, seeing you here with—" He gestured vaguely toward Naomi. "I'm starting to think she was right." Naomi's voice cut in, calm and cold. "Is there a point to this?" Victor turned to her, surprised. "Excuse me?" "You came out here for a reason. What is it?" Victor's smile faltered. "I'm just making conversation." "No," Naomi said. "You're marking territory. So mark it and move on." Silence. Victor's face darkened. "You know, I looked you up." "And?" "You're a sommelier." "I am." "Not exactly an art curator." Naomi didn't flinch. "I'm both." "Really?" Victor's tone dripped skepticism. Cassian felt his jaw tighten, but before he could speak, Naomi stepped forward. "You want to know what I do, Victor? I taste things. I find the flaws hidden beneath the finish, the rot under the polish." She tilted her head. "You'd be surprised how much wine and people have in common." Victor's face went red. "Enjoy your wedding," Naomi said, and turned back to the railing. Victor stood there, humiliated, furious. Then he walked away without another word. Cassian exhaled slowly. "Jesus," he muttered. Naomi glanced at him. "What?" "You just declared war." He started it. That doesn't mean Cassian. She turned to face him fully. If we're doing this, we do it all the way. No half measures. He stared at her, and then, for the first time in years, Cassian Wu laughed. Inside, the reception continued. Music swelled. Glasses clinked. And across the ballroom, Alara watched them through the crowd, her expression unreadable. Something had shifted, and everyone knew it. The ballroom felt smaller after the terrace. Cassian and Naomi moved back into the current of champagne and forced laughter, but something had changed. The air tasted different, sharp, metallic, like ozone before a lightning strike. Naomi's red dress caught light with every step. People tracked her movement, their conversation stuttering mid-sentence. She didn't acknowledge it, just kept her chin level, her expression neutral, like she was cataloging every face, every whisper, every flicker of judgment. Cassian stayed close, but not possessive. A hand on her lower back when they navigated the crowd, a glance that said, "I'm here without words." They found their table, 8 seats, circular, tucked between the dance floor and the exit. The other 6 chairs were occupied by couples Cassian recognized from Alara's orbit. Hedge fund managers, startup founders, people whose smiles cost extra. A woman in champagne silk looked up as they approached. Her name was Lauren. Cassian remembered her from 3 years ago. She'd been at the engagement party, the one where Alara had worn his ring and laughed at his jokes. "Cassian," Lauren said, her voice honeyed. "What a surprise." "Lauren." He pulled out Naomi's chair. She sat without hesitation. "And you must be, Naomi Vale." No hand extended, just her name, delivered flat. Lauren's smile tightened. "How do you two know each other?" "Auction house," Naomi said. "He bid on the wrong piece. I corrected him." "How romantic." "It was practical." The man beside Lauren, her husband probably, choked on his champagne. Naomi didn't blink. Cassian sat, and the table fell into the kind of silence that precedes warfare. A waiter appeared with wine. Naomi lifted her glass, swirled it once, sniffed, then set it down without tasting. Lauren noticed. "Not to your liking?" "It's fine. Just young." "Young?" "Bottled last year. Decent structure, but no complexity. It'll improve in 5 years. Right now it's just trying too hard." The table went quiet again. Cassian felt a smile tug at his mouth. He took a sip of his own glass. "She's right." Lauren's husband leaned forward. "You a sommelier or something?" "Among other things," Naomi said. "What other things?" "Depends on the day." He laughed, uncertain whether she was joking. Across the table, a younger couple exchanged glances. The woman, blonde, mid-20s, wearing too much foundation, leaned toward Naomi. "So you work in wine?" "I work with wine," Naomi corrected. "There's a difference." "What difference?" "One's a job, the other's a relationship." The blonde blinked. "That's deep." Naomi's expression didn't shift. "It's accurate." Cassian watched the table navigate around her like she was a reef they couldn't chart. She didn't try to fit in, didn't soften her edges. She just existed, sharp and unapologetic, and it made people nervous. "Good." Lauren tried again. "How long have you two been together?" 6 months, Cassian said. "Really? I'm surprised we haven't met before." "We keep things private," Naomi said. Clearly, Lauren's smile was poison wrapped in politeness. Cassian was always so public with Alara. Naomi tilted her head. "Was he?" "Oh, absolutely. They were everywhere. Galas, fundraisers, magazine spreads. The perfect couple." "Perfect," Naomi repeated like she was tasting the word. "Interesting choice." Lauren's smile faltered. "I just meant, I know what you meant." Naomi leaned back in her chair, her gaze steady. "But perfection's a performance, and performances end." Silence crashed over the table. Cassian didn't intervene. He just watched Lauren's face cycle through confusion, indignation, and finally, reluctant respect. The blonde cleared her throat. "So, what do you do, Cassian?" "Still in whatever it was?" "Investments," Cassian said. "Property, art." "Art?" Lauren perked up. "Like Victor's family?" "Not quite." "What's the difference?" "I actually look at the pieces I buy." Lauren's husband laughed, too loud. Shots fired. Lauren shot him a look that could strip paint. The conversation fragmented after that. Small talk, safe topics, the weather, the venue, the flowers. Naomi participated just enough to avoid rudeness, but Cassian could see her attention drifting, cataloging the room. Then the music shifted. A slow song. Something classical, strings heavy. Victor and Alara took the floor for their first dance. The room watched. Phones came out. Cameras flashed. Alara moved like she'd rehearsed it 1,000 times. Probably had. Her smile was radiant, her steps perfect. Victor led with confidence, his hand firm on her waist. They looked like a magazine cover. Cassian felt nothing. But Naomi. Naomi leaned forward slightly, eyes narrowing. "What?" Cassian murmured. "Watch his hand." Cassian did. Victor's grip on Alara's waist was tight. Not gentle, not affectionate, controlling. "He's leading too hard," Naomi said quietly. "She's compensating." Cassian saw it now. The tiny adjustments in Alara's posture. The way her smile never reached her eyes. "She's scared of him," Naomi added. "Or just nervous." "No," Naomi's voice was certain. "That's not nerves. That's survival." The song ended. Applause rippled through the room. Victor kissed Alara's hand and she beamed at him. Performance. The dance floor opened to other couples. Cassian stood, offered his hand to Naomi. "Shall we?" She looked at his hand, then his face. "You don't strike me as a dancer." "I'm full of surprises." She took his hand. They moved onto the floor and Cassian pulled her into position, close but not invasive. His hand found the small of her back. Hers rested on his shoulder. They started to move. Naomi followed his lead, but barely. She anticipated his steps, adjusted before he even signaled. It was less like dancing and more like negotiation. "You've done this before?" Cassian said. "Once or twice." "Liar." She almost smiled. "Takes one to know one." They turned and Cassian caught sight of Alara watching from the edge of the floor. Her expression was unreadable, but her jaw was tight. "She's staring," Naomi said. "Let her." "You don't care?" "Should I?" Naomi studied his face. "I don't know. Should you?" Cassian didn't answer. They danced in silence for a moment, the music swelling around them. Other couples filled the floor, Lauren and her husband, the blonde and her date, Victor and Alara, making another circuit. "Why'd you really come here?" Naomi asked. "I told you." "You told me a story. I'm asking for the truth." Cassian met her eyes. "What makes you think there's a difference?" "Because I've been watching you all night, and you're not angry, you're not jealous, you're just empty." The word hit harder than it should have. "Maybe that's the truth," Cassian said. "Maybe." Naomi's grip on his shoulder tightened slightly. "Or maybe you're still trying to figure out what you lost." "I didn't lose anything." "Then why are you here?" He didn't have an answer. The song ended. They stopped moving, but didn't separate immediately. "Thank you for the dance," Naomi said, her voice softer. "Thank you for not stepping on my feet." She smirked and stepped back. As they left the floor, Victor intercepted them. "Cassian, Naomi." His smile was sharp. "Enjoying yourselves?" "Immensely," Naomi said. Victor's gaze lingered on her. "You know, I've been thinking about what you said earlier." "Which part?" "The part about wine and people." "And?" "I think you're right. Some things do rot under the surface." His smile widened. "But the trick is knowing when to cut your losses." Naomi's expression didn't change. "Is that advice or a threat?" "Just an observation." "Noted." Victor turned to Cassian. "Alara wanted me to thank you for coming." "Did she?" "She did. Said it meant a lot." "I'm sure." Victor's smile faded slightly. "You know, Cassian, I always wondered what she saw in you. You're smart, sure, successful, but there's something incomplete about you." Cassian felt his jaw tighten. "Incomplete." "Like you're always holding something back, always calculating, never just present." Naomi's hand found Cassian's arm. Not possessive. Grounding. "Funny," she said to Victor. "I could say the same about you." Victor's eyes went cold. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." I don't think you understand who you're talking to. I understand perfectly. Naomi stepped forward, her voice dropping. You're a man who inherited everything and earned nothing. You wear your family name like armor because without it, you're just another insecure boy playing dress-up. The air went still. Victor's face flushed red. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. Naomi tilted her head. I know you're terrified she'll realize she made a mistake. I know you're holding her too tight because deep down, you know she doesn't love you. And I know that no matter how perfect this wedding looks, you're already losing her. Victor's hand clenched into a fist. Cassian moved between them, his voice low. Walk away, Victor. Or what? Or I'll make sure everyone in this room knows exactly who you are. You don't have anything on me. Cassian smiled. It wasn't kind. Try me. For a long moment, Victor just stood there, rage simmering behind his eyes. Then he turned and walked away. Naomi exhaled slowly. That escalated. You started it. He deserved it. Cassian didn't disagree. They moved back toward their table, but before they could sit, a hand touched Cassian's shoulder. He turned. Elara. Can we talk? She asked quietly. Cassian glanced at Naomi. She nodded once. Permission or dismissal, he wasn't sure. Sure. Elara led him away from the crowd toward a quieter corner near the gallery of wedding photos. They stopped in front of a picture of her and Victor cutting the cake, all smiles and staged joy. Nice photo, Cassian said. Don't. Don't what? Mock me. He looked at her, really looked. Up close, the cracks were visible. The makeup couldn't quite hide the exhaustion. The smile couldn't quite mask the tension. I'm not mocking you, Cassian said. Then what are you doing here? You invited me. I didn't think you'd bring her. Why not? Elara's jaw tightened. Because it's cruel. How is it cruel? You know how. Cassian crossed his arms. Enlighten me. You brought someone who looks like that, who talks like that, who... She stopped, exhaled sharply. You brought someone who makes me look small. That's not on me. Isn't it? Elara's eyes flashed. You came here to prove a point. To show me you've moved on, that you're fine, that I didn't break you. Did you? She flinched. Elara. Cassian's voice softened slightly. I'm not here to hurt you. Then why are you here? He hesitated. I don't know. Liar. Maybe. She looked away, blinking rapidly. I thought it would be easier if you came. I thought seeing you would close something. Did it? No. Her voice cracked. It made it worse. Cassian didn't know what to say. I'm not happy, Elara whispered. Then why are you doing this? Because it's safe. Because Victor is stable, predictable. He won't destroy me. And I would? She met his eyes. You already did. The words hung between them like a guillotine. Elara, don't. She stepped back. Just don't. She walked away, and Cassian stood there, alone among the wedding photos, feeling something crack open inside his chest. Naomi found him 10 minutes later. You good? She asked. Fine. You're lying again. He didn't deny it. She stepped beside him, looking at the photos. What'd she say? That I destroyed her. Naomi was quiet for a moment. Did you? Probably. Do you regret it? Cassian thought about that. I regret not being what she needed. That's not the same thing, isn't it? Naomi turned to face him. You can't be someone you're not even for love. Speaking from experience? Always. He looked at her. What happened? Someone tried to make me smaller. I left. Good. Was it? She shook her head. I still wonder sometimes. If I'd stayed, if I'd compromised, maybe I'd be happier. Or maybe you'd be dead inside. She smiled, sad. Yeah, maybe. They stood in silence, the music from the ballroom a distant hum. We should go back, Cassian said. Why? Because if we don't, people will talk. Let them. He studied her. You really don't care, do you? About what people think? She shrugged. I used to. Then I realized their opinions don't pay my rent. Cassian laughed. Actually laughed. What? Naomi asked. Nothing. Just, you're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone easier to read. Boring, you mean? Maybe, she smirked. Sorry to disappoint. You didn't? They walked back to the ballroom together, and Cassian realized something unsettling. He didn't want the night to end. The reception dragged on. Speeches were made. Victor's father, long-winded and self-congratulatory. Alara's mother, tearful and vague. A best man who told jokes that didn't land. Cassian and Naomi sat through it all, a united front against the tide of manufactured joy. Then came the toasts. Victor stood, glass raised, and delivered a speech about love and partnership that sounded like it had been written by a committee. Alara smiled beside him, her hand in his, her eyes glassy. Applause. Then Alara stood. She thanked everyone for coming, thanked her parents, thanked Victor's family. Her voice was steady, practiced. But then she paused. Her gaze swept the room and landed on Cassian. For a moment, the world held its breath. And I want to thank someone who taught me what it means to choose yourself, Alara said, her voice quieter. Even when it hurts. Cassian felt every eye in the room turn toward him. Naomi's hand found his under the table, squeezed once. Alara raised her glass. To new beginnings. To new beginnings, the room echoed. Cassian didn't drink. An hour later, the crowd thinned. People filtered toward the exits, their social batteries drained. Cassian and Naomi stayed seated, watching the room empty. We should go, Naomi said. Yeah. Neither of them moved. Then Victor appeared, swaying slightly, drunk or close to it. Cassian, he said, his voice too loud. One more dance. I don't think, not you. Victor's gaze slid to Naomi. Her. Naomi straightened. I'm good. Oh, come on. One dance for the groom. I said no. Victor's smile curdled. You know, I've been patient all night. I've let you insult me, disrespect my family, make a scene. But I'm done being patient. Cassian stood. Victor. Shut up, Cassian. Victor didn't look at him. His eyes stayed locked on Naomi. You think you're so clever, don't you? Coming here in that dress, saying those things. But I know what you are. Naomi stood slowly, her expression icy. What am I? A fraud. A sommelier playing dress-up. A nobody trying to look like somebody. And you're a spoiled child throwing a tantrum because someone told you no. Victor's face went purple. You bitch! Cassian grabbed Victor's arm, his grip iron. Walk away. Now. Or what? Or I'll break your arm. Victor yanked free, stumbling slightly. You're pathetic, Cassian. Both of you. Pathetic. He turned and staggered toward the bar. Naomi exhaled, her hands shaking slightly. You okay? Cassian asked. Fine. Naomi, I said I'm fine. But she wasn't. Cassian could see it in the tension in her shoulders, the way her jaw clenched. Let's go, he said. They walked toward the exit, and Cassian felt the room's eyes on them, judging, speculating, dissecting. They stepped outside into the cool night air, and Naomi finally exhaled. Jesus, she muttered. I'm sorry. For what? For bringing you into this. She looked at him, her expression softening. You didn't force me. I paid you. And I took the money. My choice. Cassian ran a hand through his hair. Still. They walked toward the valet stand in silence. The city sprawled below, lights flickering like dying stars. Can I ask you something? Naomi said. Yeah. Why do you do this to yourself? Do what? Put yourself in situations where you know you'll get hurt. Cassian stopped walking. What makes you think I'm hurt? Because I've been watching you all night. And every time you look at her, you flinch. He didn't deny it. So why? Naomi pressed. Why come here? Why torture yourself? Cassian stared out at the city. Because if I didn't, it would mean she won. Won what? Everything. Naomi shook her head. That's not how it works. Isn't it? No. She stepped closer. You can't win or lose a relationship. You can only survive it. And if you don't, then you learn to live with the scars. Cassian looked at her. You sound like you know. I do. The valet brought Cassian's car, a sleek black sedan that whispered money. He opened the passenger door for Naomi, and she slid in without comment. He drove in silence, the city blurring past. Naomi stared out the window. Where are we going? I don't know. Helpful. He almost smiled. They ended up at the waterfront, parked near a pier that jutted out into the dark. The water lapped against concrete. Distant ships blinked red and green. Cassian killed the engine. Silence. Can I ask you something? He said. Sure. Earlier, you said someone tried to make you smaller. What did you mean? Naomi was quiet for a long moment. I was engaged once. Cassian turned to look at her. What happened? He wanted me to quit my job. Said it wasn't appropriate for his wife to work in restaurants. Said I should focus on hosting dinners, raising kids, being decorative. What did you do? I gave him back the ring. And? And he told me I'd regret it, that I'd end up alone, bitter, working myself to death for nothing. Did you regret it? She met his eyes. Not for a second. Cassian nodded slowly. Good. What about you? Naomi asked. What happened with Alara? He hesitated. She wanted me to be softer, warmer, more available. And you couldn't? I didn't know how. Did you try? I thought I did. He exhaled. But looking back, I think I just performed the idea of trying. I didn't actually change anything. Why not? Because changing meant admitting I was wrong, and I couldn't do that. Naomi nodded. Pride's expensive. Yeah, it is. They sat in silence, the city humming behind them. What now? Naomi asked. What do you mean? The job's done. We showed up. We played the part. What happens next? Cassian didn't have an answer. I mean, Naomi continued, do we just go back to our lives? Pretend tonight didn't happen? That was the deal. Was it? He looked at her. What are you asking? She turned to face him fully. I'm asking if you want to. Cassian's throat tightened. Want to what? Pretend. The word hung between them, heavy with implications. I don't know, Cassian admitted. That's honest, at least. Naomi, it's fine. She looked away. Forget I said anything. No. Cassian, no. He reached for her hand, hesitated, then took it anyway. I don't want to pretend. She stared at their joined hands. Then what do you want? I don't know, but it's not nothing. Naomi's breath hitched slightly. That's terrifying. Yeah, it is. They sat like that, hands linked, the silence no longer uncomfortable. Then Naomi's phone buzzed. She pulled it out, frowned. It's Lauren. What? She texted me, says there's something I should know. About what? Naomi opened the message, read it, and her expression went cold. What? Cassian asked. She turned the phone toward him. The message read, Victor's been telling people you're an escort. Thought you should know. Cassian felt rage ignite in his chest. That son of a... It's fine, Naomi said, her voice flat. It's not fine. Cassian, he doesn't get to do this. What are you going to do? Go back there and start a fight? Maybe. Don't. Naomi's grip on his hand tightened. Don't give him the satisfaction. He just called you a... I know what he called me, and I don't care. How can you not care? Because his opinion means nothing. She met his eyes. The only opinions that matter are mine and yours. Cassian stared at her. Naomi, do you think I'm an escort? No. Then we're done. But they weren't. Cassian could feel it, the shift, the crack, the point where everything tipped. I'm going back, he said. Cassian, I'm going back, and I'm ending this. Ending what? Him, his bullshit, all of it. Naomi shook her head. That's not going to fix anything. Maybe not, but it'll feel good. He started the car. Cassian, don't... But he was already driving. They arrived back at the venue 20 minutes later. Most of the guests were gone, but the lights were still on, the ballroom still occupied by stragglers and cleanup crew. Cassian parked and got out. Naomi followed, cursing under her breath. "This is stupid," she said. "Probably. You're going to regret this." "Also probable." They walked inside. Victor was still there, tie loosened, jacket off, holding court with a small group near the bar. He saw Cassian and grinned. "Back so soon?" Cassian walked straight toward him. "We need to talk." "About what?" "About the lies you've been spreading." Victor's grin widened. "I have no idea what you're talking about. You told people Naomi's an escort." "Did I?" Victor glanced at his friends, who smirked. "Must have been a misunderstanding. Apologize." "Or what?" Cassian stepped closer. "Or I'll make you." Victor laughed. "You're really going to threaten me? At my own wedding?" "I'm not threatening, I'm promising." The group around Victor went quiet. Victor's smile faded. "You know what your problem is, Cassian? You think you're dangerous. You think you're some kind of kingpin because you made money in the shadows. But you're just a thug in an expensive suit. And you're a coward hiding behind your family name." Victor's face went red. "Get out! Make me!" For a moment, it looked like Victor might actually swing, but then Alara appeared. "Stop," she said, her voice sharp. Both men turned. She looked exhausted, makeup smudged, hair coming loose. The perfect bride facade finally crumbling. "Alara," Victor started. "Shut up, Victor." He blinked. "What?" "I said shut up." She turned to Cassian. "You need to leave." "Not until he apologizes." "He's not going to apologize. And you coming back here just makes it worse." "He called her itch." "I know what he called her." Ilara's voice cracked. "And I'm sorry, but you being here, causing a scene, it doesn't help." "Then what does?" "Leaving, walking away, letting me have one night where I don't have to clean up your mess." The words hit like a slap. "My mess?" Cassian repeated. "Yes, your mess. Your need to prove something. Your need to win." Ilara's eyes filled with tears. "I'm getting married, Cassian. Can't you just let me have that?" "You're not happy." "That's not your decision." "Then whose is it?" She didn't answer. Naomi stepped forward, her voice calm. "We should go." Cassian looked at her, then back at Ilara. "Fine," he said quietly. He turned to leave, but Victor couldn't let it go. "That's right," Victor called after him. "Run away, like you always do." Cassian stopped. "Cassian," Naomi warned, but it was too late. Cassian turned, walked back and punched Victor in the face. Victor went down hard, blood streaming from his nose. The ballroom erupted. Alara screamed. Security rushed forward. Victor's friends surged toward Cassian. Naomi grabbed his arm. "We're leaving. Now." She dragged him toward the exit, and Cassian led her. Behind them, chaos. They burst through the doors into the night, and Cassian's hand throbbed. "Get in the car," Naomi said. He did. She drove this time, pulling out of the lot with tires screeching. Neither of them spoke for 5 minutes. Then Naomi pulled over, killed the engine, and turned to face him. "What the hell was that?" "He deserved it." "That's not the point." "Then what is?" "The point is you just proved him right." Her voice shook. "You just proved you're exactly what he said. A thug in an expensive suit." Cassian's jaw clenched. "He called you." "I don't care what he called me," Naomi shouted. "I care that you threw away whatever shred of dignity you had left for what? Revenge? Pride? He insulted you." "So what? People insult me every day. I don't need you to defend my honor." "Then what do you need?" She stared at him, breathing hard. "I need you to stop treating this like a war you can win. Because you can't. You already lost. The moment you walked into that wedding, you lost." The words cut deep. "Naomi, I'm done." She opened the car door. "I'm walking." "Don't." But she was already out, striding down the sidewalk, her red dress like a wound against the dark. Cassian sat there, alone in the car, his hand aching, his chest hollow. And for the first time in years, he didn't know what to do next. The toast came without warning. Naomi stood, her chair scraping against marble, and the room fell silent like someone had cut the power. Conversations died mid-sentence. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Even the string quartet seemed to sense the shift, their final note hanging in the air like a question mark. Cassian's hand tightened around his glass. They hadn't planned this. This wasn't part of the script. Naomi lifted her champagne flute, the crystal catching light like a blade. "I'd like to say a few words," she said. Her voice carried, not loud but clear. Absolute. The kind of voice that didn't ask for attention because it already owned it. Alara's smile froze. Victor's hand stilled on her shoulder. Cassian felt his pulse kick up. "What the hell are you doing?" But Naomi's gaze swept the room with the calm of someone who'd already calculated every angle, every exit, every consequence. "I don't know most of you," she began. "I'm not family. I'm not old money. I'm just someone who appreciates beautiful things." She paused, letting the silence stretch. "And this wedding is beautiful. Perfect, even." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Cassian watched Alara's shoulders relax slightly. Victor's smile returned. Too soon. "But perfection," Naomi continued, her tone shifting, still elegant but now edged with something sharper, "is exhausting, isn't it?" The murmurs stopped. "We spend so much time polishing the surface, making sure every detail is flawless, every smile just right, every word carefully chosen." She turned slightly, her gaze landing on Alara. "We build these perfect lives, perfect marriages, perfect futures, and we tell ourselves it's enough." Alara's face paled. "But underneath all that polish," Naomi said softly, "what's really there?" The room held its breath. Victor stood abruptly, his chair scraping back. "I think that's enough. Is it?" Naomi's eyes shifted to him. "Because I think we're just getting started." Cassian felt ice slide down his spine. This wasn't disruption. This was demolition. Victor's jaw clenched. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" Naomi tilted her head. "See, I work with wine. And the thing about wine is, it can look perfect on the outside. Beautiful bottle. Elegant label. But if it's been stored wrong, if it's been sitting too long in the heat, exposed to light," she paused, "it turns. Goes rotten from the inside out, and you don't know until you open it." Someone gasped. Alara stood now, her hand trembling on the table. "Stop." But Naomi wasn't finished. "The worst part is when you realize the rot's been there all along. You just couldn't see it through the glass." Victor's face went crimson. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Naomi met his fury with perfect calm. "Someone who knows the difference between vintage and vinegar." The room erupted. Voices overlapped. Shock, outrage, nervous laughter. Alara's mother stood, clutching her pearls like they might save her. Victor's father looked like he'd swallowed glass. Cassian rose slowly, his mind racing. He needed to get Naomi out. Now. Before this became something irreversible. But Victor stepped forward, blocking his path. "You think you're clever?" Victor's voice shook with rage. "Coming here with your hired date, pretending to be something you're not?" Cassian's blood went cold. Victor turned to address the room, voice rising. "You want to know who Naomi Vale really is? She's not a curator. She's a sommelier at a restaurant downtown. Cassian paid her $50,000 to play dress-up for the night." The room went silent. All eyes turned to Naomi. Cassian felt the ground shift beneath him. Not because of the exposure, but because of what came next. Naomi didn't flinch, didn't stammer, didn't retreat. She smiled. "You're right," she said simply. "He did pay me." Gasps echoed through the ballroom. $50,000 to stand here and pretend to be someone I'm not." She set her champagne glass down with precise care. "But the funny thing about pretending, Victor, is that it's only convincing when you're good at it." She stepped toward him, closing the distance until they were inches apart. "And you?" Her voice dropped, intimate and devastating. "You're terrible at it." Victor's face twisted. "You don't know anything about me. I know you've been texting someone named Claire for the past 6 months. I know your hand shakes when Alara touches you. I know you drank 4 glasses of scotch before the ceremony just to get through the vows." She paused. "I know because I've been watching, and unlike you, I'm very good at pretending." The silence that followed was suffocating. Alara's voice cracked the air like breaking ice. "Victor, He didn't turn to her, couldn't. His eyes were locked on Naomi, fury and fear warring for dominance. "You're lying," he said. "Am I?" Naomi pulled out her phone, sleek, minimal, and held it up. On the screen was a photo, Victor, a blonde woman, a hotel lobby. Time-stamped 2 weeks ago. Alara made a sound, half gasp, half sob. The room detonated. Voices shouted over each other. Chairs scraped. Someone's glass shattered on the floor. Victor lunged forward, but Cassian moved faster, stepping between him and Naomi. "Don't," Cassian said quietly. Victor's eyes blazed. "You orchestrated this. You brought her here to destroy us." "No." Cassian's voice was steel. "You destroyed yourselves. We just held up a mirror." Victor swung. Cassian caught his wrist mid-arc, twisting just enough to send Victor stumbling backward into a table. Champagne bottles toppled. Glass shattered. Security moved in. 2 men in black suits, faces blank, hands reaching for Cassian. But Naomi's voice cut through the chaos. "Touch him and I send this photo to every media outlet in the city." The guards froze. Victor straightened, breathing hard, his perfect suit rumpled. "You wouldn't dare." Naomi's smile was arctic. "Try me." For a long moment, no one moved. Then Alara spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "Get out." Cassian turned to her. She stood rigid, tears streaming down her face, her perfect makeup ruined. "Both of you," she said. "Get out." Cassian held her gaze. For a second, just one, he saw the woman he'd once known beneath all the polish. Hurt, broken, human. Then she looked away. Naomi took Cassian's hand. Her fingers were steady, warm. "Let's go," she said. They walked out together through a ballroom full of shattered illusions and expensive silence. Behind them, someone started crying. The heavy doors closed with a sound like a coffin lid. They didn't speak in the elevator, didn't speak in the car. The driver, Marcus, always Marcus, knew better than to ask questions. He just drove. Cassian stared out the window, watching the city blur past. Lights, shadows, lives unfolding in windows high above the street. Naomi sat beside him, still wearing that scarlet dress, still perfectly composed. He should have felt victorious. He should have felt satisfied. Instead, he felt hollow. "Where did you get the photo?" he asked finally. Naomi didn't look at him. "I didn't." He turned. "What?" "There is no photo. I made it up." Cassian's chest tightened. "You bluffed." "I observed." Victor's tells were obvious, the drinking, the avoidance, the way he looked at Alara like she was a business transaction. She shrugged. "I gambled he'd been unfaithful. Apparently, I was right." Cassian stared at her. "You just detonated a wedding based on a guess." "Not a guess. An educated assessment." "Jesus, Naomi." She finally turned to face him. "You wanted disruption. I gave you disruption." "I wanted—" He stopped, unsure what he'd actually wanted. Revenge? Validation? Proof that Alara had made a mistake? "What?" Naomi pressed. "What did you want, Cassian?" He didn't answer. The car pulled up to his building. They rode the elevator to the penthouse in silence. Inside, Cassian poured himself a drink. Whiskey. The expensive kind that tasted like smoke and regret. Naomi walked to the window, her reflection ghostly in the glass. "You should go," Cassian said. "Is that what you want?" "It's what's practical." She turned. "I don't care about practical." "Then what do you care about?" "The truth." He laughed, bitter, sharp. "The truth is you just burned a bridge I can never rebuild." "Good. It was a rotten bridge. You don't get to decide that." "Neither do you." She stepped toward him. "You hired me to play a role. I played it, better than you expected. And now you're angry because I went off script. You humiliated Alara." Alara humiliated herself the moment she chose comfort over honesty. Cassian slammed his glass down. "You don't know her. I know she made you feel like you weren't enough. I know she walked away because you scared her. I know she's marrying a man she doesn't love because it's easier than fighting for something real." Naomi's eyes were fierce. "So no, I don't know her, but I know what she did to you." Cassian's breath caught. "And I know," Naomi continued, softer now, "that you didn't bring me to that wedding to prove you'd moved on. You brought me because you needed someone to see you. Actually see you, not the empire, not the reputation, you. The silence stretched between them like a wire pulled taut. Naomi, don't. She held up a hand. Don't lie to me now, not after everything. He wanted to argue, wanted to deflect, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he said, "Why did you really do it?" "The toast? All of it." She looked at him for a long moment. "Because I'm tired of people pretending. Tired of watching people settle for less because they're afraid of wanting more." Her voice cracked just slightly. "Tired of being told I should be grateful for scraps when I deserve the whole damn meal." Cassian understood that. God, he understood that. He crossed the space between them in 2 strides and kissed her. It wasn't gentle, wasn't planned. It was desperation and fury, and something that felt dangerously close to hope. Naomi kissed him back, fierce, demanding, real. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she pressed her forehead against his. "This wasn't part of the deal," she whispered. "I know. We can't." "I know." But neither of them moved. The call came at 3 in the morning. Cassian jolted awake, disoriented. Naomi was asleep beside him. Her hair spilled across his pillow like dark water. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He answered. "Mr. Wu." The voice was male, clipped, professional. "We need to talk." "Who is this?" "Someone who knows what you did tonight, and someone who can make it very expensive for you." Cassian's blood went cold. "What do you want?" "A meeting, tomorrow, alone." "Where?" The voice gave him an address. A warehouse district on the city's eastern edge, the kind of place where things disappeared. "Who are you?" Cassian asked again. "Let's just say I represent certain interests. Interests you've upset." The line went dead. Cassian stared at the phone, his mind racing. Naomi stirred beside him. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. Go back to sleep." But she sat up, reading his face. "Cassian?" He exhaled slowly. "Someone knows. About tonight. About us." "Who?" "I don't know, but they want to meet." Naomi's eyes sharpened. "It's a trap." "Probably." "Then don't go." "If I don't, they'll escalate. And if you do, they might kill you." He didn't argue, because she was probably right. Morning came too fast. Cassian dressed in silence, dark suit, no tie. Naomi watched from the bed, her expression unreadable. "I'm coming with you," she said. "No." Cassian, "No." His voice was firm. "This is my mess, not yours. We made it together, and I'll clean it up alone." She stood crossing to him. "You're an idiot if you think I'm letting you walk into an ambush without backup. What are you going to do? Insult them to death?" She didn't smile. "If necessary." He cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. "Naomi, please, stay here." For a moment he thought she'd argue, but then she nodded, reluctant. "Fine, but if you're not back in 2 hours, I'm calling the police." "Fair." He kissed her, quick, hard, and left before he could change his mind. The warehouse was exactly what Cassian expected. Rusted metal, broken windows. The kind of place where rats outnumbered people. He parked a block away and walked the rest of the distance, every instinct screaming at him to turn back. But he didn't. Inside, the air smelled like mildew and oil. Shadows pooled in corners. A single overhead light flickered, casting everything in sickly yellow. 3 men waited for him. 2 were muscle. Broad shoulders, blank faces, hands loose at their sides. The third stood between them, older, gray-haired, wearing a suit that cost more than most cars. Cassian recognized him, Gerald Park, Alara's father. "Mr. Wu?" Gerald's voice was smooth, cultured. "Thank you for coming." Cassian kept his distance. "What do you want?" "To have a conversation about last night." "What about it?" Gerald smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "You embarrassed my family. Your daughter's fiancé did that himself." "Perhaps. But you orchestrated the exposure." "I attended a wedding. That's all." "With a woman you paid to humiliate my daughter." Cassian's jaw tightened. Naomi acted on her own. Did she? Gerald stepped forward. Or did you give her just enough information to weaponize it? I didn't know about Victor's affair. But you suspected, and you brought someone volatile enough to act on suspicion. Cassian said nothing. Gerald's smile widened. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to issue a public apology. You're going to admit you fabricated the entire thing out of jealousy, and you're going to ensure that Ms. Vale does the same. And if I don't? Then I'll make sure every business you operate in this city gets buried in legal red tape. Every property you own will face inspections. Every contract will be scrutinized. By the time I'm finished, you'll be lucky to own a hot dog cart. Cassian's hands curled into fists. You're threatening me. I'm offering you a choice. Gerald's tone didn't change. Apologize or watch everything you've built burn. I didn't fabricate anything. It doesn't matter. The narrative is what matters. And right now the narrative is that you're a vindictive ex-lover who paid a woman to destroy a wedding. Gerald paused. That's the story that will run in every paper, every blog, every whisper in every boardroom. Cassian felt rage building in his chest. Hot, corrosive. You have 24 hours, Gerald said. After that, the lawsuits begin. He turned to leave, his guards following. Cassian's voice stopped him. You knew. Gerald paused, didn't turn. You knew Victor was cheating on Alara, and you let the wedding happen anyway. Silence. Then Gerald looked back, his expression cold. Of course I knew. But Victor's family has resources, connections, and my daughter's happiness is less valuable than the merger those connections provide. Cassian stared at him, sickened. 24 hours, Mr. Wu. The door slammed shut. Cassian stood alone in the warehouse, the overhead light still flickering, and realized something terrible. He'd won the battle, but he'd just lost the war. He drove back in a daze, his mind spinning through options, scenarios, exits. None of them ended well. If he apologized, he destroyed Naomi. If he didn't, Gerald would destroy him. There was no third option. He parked outside his building and sat in the silence, staring at nothing. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. He answered without thinking. Mr. Wu, this is Detective Sarah Chen with the Metro Police. I need you to come down to the station. His blood froze. Why? We've received a complaint. Extortion, harassment, assault. From who? Victor Han. He's alleging that you and an associate, Naomi Vale, blackmailed him at his wedding last night. Cassian's world tilted. That's not true. Then you'll have no problem coming in to discuss it. Am I under arrest? Not yet, but I'd advise you to cooperate. The line went dead. Cassian sat frozen, his hands gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles went white. They'd planned this, Gerald and Victor, a coordinated strike, financial ruin from one side, criminal charges from the other, and Naomi. Naomi was caught in the crossfire. He had to warn her. He grabbed his phone and dialed. It went straight to voicemail. He tried again. Nothing. Panic clawed at his throat. He sprinted into the building, took the elevator up, burst through his penthouse door. Naomi! Silence. The apartment was empty. On the kitchen counter, a single piece of paper. He picked it up with shaking hands. They came for me. Said if I didn't turn myself in, they'd charge you with conspiracy. I'm sorry. I won't let you take the fall for something I did. And Cassian's vision blurred. No, 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 no. He grabbed his keys and ran. The police station was a concrete fortress on the city's north side. Fluorescent lights, linoleum floors, the smell of burnt coffee and desperation. Cassian pushed through the doors, breathless. I need to see Naomi Vale. She was brought in. Mr. Wu. Detective Chen appeared from a side hallway. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense demeanor. I was hoping you'd show up. Where is she? In holding. She turned herself in an hour ago. On what charges? Extortion, defamation, fraud. Cassian felt his chest constrict. That's insane. She admitted to it. The world stopped. What? Detective Chen pulled out a tablet, tapped the screen, and turned it toward him. Footage. Black and white. Naomi sitting in an interrogation room, looking small under the harsh lighting. Did you fabricate evidence against Victor Han? A voice off camera. Yes. Did you demand money to keep that evidence private? A pause. Then, yes. Cassian couldn't breathe. She's lying, he said. She's protecting me. Or, Chen said calmly, she's telling the truth. I was there. I know what happened. Then you should also know that Ms. Vale signed a confession. She's taking full responsibility. Why would she do that? Chen's expression softened just slightly. Because she thinks she's saving you. Cassian's legs almost gave out. I need to see her. Not possible. She's being processed. Please. Chen studied him for a long moment. Then she sighed. 5 minutes. That's all I can give you. The interrogation room was small, windowless. Naomi sat at a metal table, hands folded in front of her. She looked exhausted, smaller somehow. When Cassian walked in, she didn't meet his eyes. Naomi, you shouldn't be here. He sat across from her. Why did you confess? Because it's true. It's not. You didn't extort anyone. I threatened Victor. I showed him a photo that didn't exist. That's fraud. That's not... Cassian stopped, forced himself to breathe. Naomi, look at me. She finally did. Her eyes were hollow. They're going to destroy you, she said quietly. Gerald Park has enough money and power to make sure you never recover. But me? I'm nobody. I don't have an empire to lose, just a job, a reputation. She shrugged. I can rebuild? Not from a criminal record. Maybe, maybe not. She leaned forward. But I won't let you go down for something I chose to do. I brought you into this. And I went off script. That's on me. Cassian's hands shook. This isn't how this ends. It's the only way it can end. No. His voice broke. No, I won't let you Cassian. She reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. You taught me something last night. You taught me that perfection is a cage, that polish hides rot. She smiled, sad, tired. I spent my whole life being careful, playing it safe, never risking anything real, and then I met you. And for one night, I got to be someone who didn't flinch. Tears burned his eyes. So let me have this, she whispered. Let me be brave one more time. The door opened. Detective Chen stood in the doorway. Time's up. Naomi stood. Cassian grabbed her hand. I'll fix this, he said desperately. I'll find a way. She pulled free, gentle but firm. You already did. She walked out without looking back. The door closed. Cassian sat alone in the interrogation room, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and felt something inside him shatter completely. He'd wanted to destroy a wedding. Instead, he'd destroyed the only person who'd ever really seen him. And now he had 24 hours to decide, save himself or burn everything trying to save. Cassian didn't sleep. Couldn't. The penthouse felt like a mausoleum, too big, too quiet, every surface reflecting back a version of himself he didn't recognize. He stood at the window as dawn bled across the skyline, painting the city in shades of bruise and rust. Somewhere out there, Naomi sat in a holding cell, taking the fall for a crime that wasn't hers. And he had less than 18 hours to decide whether to save his empire or torch it trying to save her. The choice should have been simple: self-preservation, cut losses, survive. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face across that interrogation table. Tired, resigned, brave. Let me be brave one more time. His phone buzzed. Marcus. Talk to me, Cassian said. Gerald Park's filing the civil suit at noon. Full scorched earth, fraud, conspiracy, intentional infliction of emotional distress. He's going after your assets, your businesses, everything. And the criminal charges? Victor's pushing this DA hard. They're talking extortion, blackmail. Naomi's confession gives them leverage. Cassian's jaw clenched. What about bail? Denied. Flight risk, they said. She'll sit until arraignment. When? 72 hours minimum. 3 days. 3 days of Naomi in a cage while Gerald Park dismantled everything Cassian had built. Boss, you need to make a decision. If you're going to apologize, do it now. Cut a deal. Salvage what you can. Cassian stared at his reflection in the glass. 34 years old. Self-made. An empire built from rubble and ruthlessness, and none of it meant a goddamn thing. "No," he said quietly. "Boss, I'm not apologizing, and I'm not letting her rot for something I started." Marcus exhaled slowly. "Then what's the play?" Cassian turned from the window. "I need everything you have on Gerald Park, and I mean everything. That's a deep dive. It'll take time. You have 6 hours. Boss, that's not 6 hours, Marcus. Find his pressure points. Find what he's hiding." A pause. Then, "Understood." The line went dead. Cassian grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. The law offices of Chen and Associates occupied the 15th floor of a downtown high-rise. Glass walls, modern furniture. The kind of place where justice came with a price tag. Cassian walked in without an appointment. The receptionist looked up, startled. "Sir, do you have—" "I need to see Catherine Chen, now." "She's with a client. Tell her Cassian Wu is here. She'll make time." The receptionist hesitated, then picked up the phone. 2 minutes later, a woman emerged from a corner office. Mid-30s, dark hair pulled back severe, suit sharp enough to draw blood. Catherine Chen, best defense attorney in the city. She'd gotten 3 impossible cases dismissed last year alone. "Mr. Wu," she extended her hand. Her grip was firm, no nonsense. "I was expecting your call." "Then you know why I'm here. Naomi Vale, yes?" She gestured toward her office. "Let's talk." Inside, Catherine closed the door and leaned against her desk. "I've reviewed the charges. It's not good." "Can you get her out?" "On bail? Unlikely. The DA's feeling pressure from the Han family. They want to make an example." "What about the charges themselves?" Catherine pulled up a file on her tablet. "The confession is damaging, but it's also inconsistent with the evidence. Victor Han claims extortion, but there's no money trail, no demands, just a public confrontation. So it's his word against hers. Essentially. But his word comes with political connections and deep pockets." Cassian's hands curled into fists. "What do we need to break this? Proof that Victor's lying, or proof that Gerald Park orchestrated this to protect his business interests?" She set the tablet down. "Either one shifts the narrative. How much time do we have?" Arraignment's in 3 days. After that, it goes to trial prep. Once we're locked into the court system, options narrow significantly." Cassian met her eyes. "I need you to buy me 48 hours, whatever it takes." Catherine studied him. "You have something." "I will." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I've got." She was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "I'll file motions, drag out the process. But Cassian, if you don't deliver, she's going to prison." "I know." Cassian's next stop was a coffee shop 3 blocks from the financial district. Neutral ground. Public enough to discourage violence, quiet enough for private conversation. He sat in the back corner and waited. 20 minutes later, a woman slid into the seat across from him. Early 50s, graying hair, wire-rimmed glasses. She looked like someone's aunt. She was actually one of the city's most connected private investigators. "Mr. Wu," her voice was dry, efficient. "You're causing quite a stir." "I need information, Linda." "So Marcus said." She pulled out a slim folder. Gerald Park. Impressive on paper. Real estate mogul. Philanthropist. Model citizen. She opened the folder. "But nobody's that clean." Cassian leaned forward. "What did you find?" "Offshore accounts, shell companies, the usual wealth-hiding tactics. But here's the interesting part. 6 months ago, Park moved a significant sum through a Cayman subsidiary. $10 million. Where'd it go?" That's where it gets murky. The trail disappears into a series of LLCs, but one of those LLCs shares a board member with a company owned by Victor Han's father. Cassian's pulse quickened. They're in business together. More than that. I cross-referenced the timeline. The money moved 2 weeks after Victor proposed to Alara. "It's a dowry," Linda nodded. "Or a bride price, depending on how you want to frame it. Either way, it's transactional." "Can you prove it?" "The paper trail's there, but it's buried deep. You'd need subpoena power to make it stick in court." Cassian sat back, mind racing. What else? Linda flipped to another page. Victor Hahn. Clean record. Too clean, actually. But I found something interesting. He's been paying rent on an apartment in the Marina District. High-end cash payments. The affair. Likely. I pulled surveillance footage from the building lobby. Want to guess who shows up twice a week? She slid a photo across the table. A blonde woman, late 20s, beautiful in that expensive, maintained way. Claire Donovan, Linda said, works for a PR firm that handles the Hahn family's public image. Cassian stared at the photo. This is it. This is what we need. Maybe, but photos aren't confessions, and Victor can claim she's a colleague. Not if we can prove the apartment's being used for more than meetings. Linda's eyebrow arched. You want me to break in? I want you to find proof, however you need to do it. She was quiet for a moment. That'll cost extra, and it's risky. How much? 50,000, and I need it now. Cassian pulled out his phone and transferred the money without hesitation. Linda's phone buzzed. She checked it, then nodded. I'll have something for you by tonight. Make it count. Nah. The rest of the day was a blur of phone calls and strategic moves. Cassian met with accountants, lawyers, business partners. He liquidated assets, called in favors, burned bridges he'd spent years building. By sunset, he'd assembled a war chest. Not just money, but leverage. Information, connections. Everything he'd need to dismantle Gerald Park. Marcus called at 8. I've got the deep dive. You're not going to like it. Tell me. Gerald Park's been under federal investigation for the past year. Tax evasion, money laundering. The feds have been building a case, but they don't have enough to move yet. Cassian's mind spun. Who knows about this? Almost nobody. It's sealed, but I've got a contact in the U.S. Attorney's Office. Off the record. Can we use it? Not directly, but if Park makes too much noise publicly, the feds might accelerate their timeline. Cassian smiled, cold, predatory. Then let's give them a reason to move. Bam. At midnight, Cassian stood outside the Park family estate. It was a fortress of old money, stone walls, iron gates, security cameras every 10 feet. He pressed the intercom. A voice crackled through. Who is this? Cassian Wu. I'm here to see Gerald Park. A long pause. Then, Mr. Park is not receiving visitors. Tell him I have information about his federal investigation. I'll give him 5 minutes to decide if he wants to hear it privately or read about it in tomorrow's headlines. Another pause. Longer this time. The gate buzzed open. Cassian walked up the long driveway, every step measured. Security guards flanked him, silent and watchful. Inside, the house was exactly what he expected. Marble floors, expensive art, the kind of wealth that whispered instead of shouted. Gerald Park waited in a study lined with leather-bound books. He stood behind a mahogany desk, hands clasped behind his back. Mr. Wu, this is quite bold. Cassian closed the door behind him. We need to talk. I gave you 24 hours. You have... Gerald checked his watch. 6 hours remaining. I'm not here to apologize. Gerald's expression hardened. Then you're wasting both our time. I'm here to offer you a deal. I don't make deals with people who've humiliated my family. Cassian stepped forward. Your daughter's marriage is a transaction. You sold her to the Hahn family for $10 million and a business merger. Gerald's face didn't change. That's a serious accusation. It's a fact. I have the financial records, shell companies, offshore accounts, the whole trail. Even if that were true, which it isn't, it proves nothing illegal. Maybe not, but it's going to look very interesting to the federal prosecutors already investigating you for money laundering. The room went silent. Gerald's jaw tightened. You're bluffing. Am I? Cassian pulled out his phone and opened a file. U.S. Attorney's Office, Southern District, case number sealed. They've been watching you for a year, Gerald, waiting for one more piece to fall into place. He set the phone on the desk. I can give them that piece, or I can make it disappear. Gerald stared at the phone, then at Cassian. What do you want? Drop the lawsuit, get Victor to withdraw the criminal charges against Naomi Vale, and stay the hell out of my life. And if I refuse? Then by tomorrow morning, every news outlet in the city will have a copy of your financial records. The feds will have to move. And your family's reputation, the one you've spent decades building, will be destroyed. Gerald's hands trembled slightly, barely visible, but Cassian saw it. You're threatening me in my own home. I'm offering you a way out. Take it or don't, but make your decision now. The silence stretched. Outside, wind rattled the windows. Finally, Gerald spoke. You really care about her? It wasn't a question. Cassian didn't answer. Gerald walked to a sidebar and poured himself a drink. His movements were slow, deliberate. I built this family from nothing, he said quietly. My father was a janitor. My mother cleaned houses. I clawed my way up through sheer will. He took a sip. And now you're asking me to dismantle everything I've built to protect some woman you paid to play pretend. I'm asking you to choose between your pride and your freedom. Gerald turned. His eyes were hard. You think you've won, but even if I agree, you've made an enemy, and enemies don't forget. Neither do I. They stared at each other across the study. Two men who'd built empires from nothing, now locked in a battle neither could afford to lose. Fine, Gerald said finally. I'll drop the suit. Victor will withdraw the charges. Tonight. By morning. Not good enough. Gerald's face darkened. You're pushing, Wu. And you're stalling. Make the calls, now, or I walk out that door and this whole thing goes public in the next hour. For a moment, Cassian thought Gerald might refuse, might call security, might escalate. But then Gerald pulled out his phone. He made 2 calls, short, clipped, professional. When he hung up, he looked at Cassian with something close to hatred. It's done. The charges will be dropped within the hour. The lawsuit's withdrawn. Cassian picked up his phone from the desk. Smart choice. Get out of my house. Cassian walked to the door, then paused. One more thing. What? Alara deserves better than what you gave her. She deserved a father who cared more about her happiness than his balance sheet. Gerald's face went white. You don't know. I know exactly what you are. And so does she. Cassian walked out. Empty shot. He called Catherine Chen from the car. It's done. Charges are being dropped. How the hell did you Don't ask. Just get Naomi out. I'll need confirmation from the DA's office. You'll have it within the hour. Be ready. He hung up and dialed Marcus. Send everything we have on Gerald Park to the U.S. Attorney's office. Anonymous tip. Make sure they know it's credible. You sure about this? If Park finds out, he made his choice. Now we make ours. Marcus hesitated. Boss, you're burning a lot of bridges tonight. Good. They were rotten anyway. Dumb. 2 hours later, Cassian stood outside the police station as dawn broke over the city. The doors opened. Naomi walked out, looking exhausted, rumpled, her scarlet dress replaced with county-issued sweats. She saw him and stopped. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then she crossed the distance between them in 5 quick steps and hit him. Not hard, just enough to sting. You idiot, she said, voice shaking. You complete idiot. I know. I told you to let me handle this. I couldn't. Why not? He looked at her, really looked, saw the exhaustion, the fear beneath the anger, the way her hands trembled even as she tried to hold herself together. Because you're not the only one who gets to be brave. Her eyes filled with tears. They dropped everything? She asked. Everything. How? Does it matter? She searched his face. What did it cost you? Nothing I needed. Cassian, Naomi. He cupped her face, thumbs brushing away tears. I spent years building an empire because I thought it would make me matter, thought it would prove I was worth something. His voice cracked. But none of it meant anything until I met you. She let out a sound, half laugh, half sob. That's the worst line I've ever heard. I know. And you mean every word. I do. She kissed him, desperate, fierce, real. When they broke apart, she pressed her forehead against his. What happens now? She whispered. I don't know. That's not very reassuring. It's honest. She pulled back slightly, studying him. Did you really burn everything to get me out? Not everything, just the parts that didn't matter. And what matters? He didn't hesitate. You. She smiled, tired, beautiful, genuine. You're an idiot. You've mentioned that. But you're my idiot. Something warm spread through his chest, something that felt dangerously like hope. Behind them, a car pulled up. Marcus. "Boss?" he called through the window. "We've got a problem." Cassian's hand tightened on Naomi's. "What kind of problem?" "Victor Hahn just called a press conference. He's going live in 20 minutes. Naomi's face went pale. "What's he going to say?" Marcus's expression was grim. "Everything." Cassian felt ice slide down his spine. They'd won the battle with Gerald Park, but Victor, wounded, humiliated, desperate, was about to launch a war of his own. And this time, there would be no backroom deals, no quiet negotiations, just blood in the water and cameras rolling. "Get in the car," Cassian said. Naomi didn't argue. They drove through the city as morning light painted everything gold and merciless, racing toward a confrontation that would either destroy them both or burn away everything fake until only truth remained. Either way, there was no turning back. The war had just begun. And Cassian Wu, for the first time in his life, didn't have a plan. Just a woman beside him who taught him what it meant to fight for something real. And that, he realized as they pulled up to the news station where Victor's press conference was set to begin, would have to be enough. Because in 7 minutes, the cameras would go live. And the whole city would watch as everything they'd built, every lie, every truth, every desperate gamble, collided in a single devastating moment that would decide whether they survived. The news station lobby was all glass and steel, designed to look transparent while hiding everything that mattered. Camera crews hauled equipment through revolving doors. Producers barked into headsets. Somewhere upstairs, Victor Hahn was preparing to rewrite the narrative one final time. Cassian and Naomi pushed through the chaos, Marcus trailing behind like a shadow. "Where?" Cassian asked. Marcus pointed to the elevators. "Third floor, conference room B. Security's tight." "Get us in." "Boss, they're not going to just get us in." Marcus nodded and pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. 30 seconds later, he looked up. "Service entrance backstairs, security cameras loop in 90 seconds. They moved. The stairwell was concrete and fluorescent lighting, the kind of space designed to be forgotten. Their footsteps echoed as they climbed, each floor bringing them closer to whatever Victor had planned. Naomi's breathing was steady beside him, but Cassian could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands curled into fists at her sides. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. She glanced at him. "Yes, I do." "Naomi, he's going to blame me. Say I seduced you, manipulated you, fabricated everything for money." Her voice was flat, factual. "I know how this works. The woman always becomes the villain. Not if we control the story first. And how do we do that?" Cassian stopped on the landing between floors. "We tell the truth. All of it." She stared at him. "That'll destroy both of us." "Maybe. Or maybe it's the only thing that saves us." Before she could respond, Marcus's phone buzzed. He checked it, face grim. "They're starting in 3 minutes." They started running. The third floor was a maze of corridors lined with studio equipment and monitor walls showing feeds from a dozen different broadcasts. Through a glass partition, Cassian could see the conference room. Victor stood at a podium, looking every inch the wronged party. Perfect suit, perfect hair. Expression carefully calibrated between hurt and righteous anger. Behind him, a screen displayed a photograph. Cassian and Naomi at the wedding, her hand in his, both of them looking like exactly what they'd pretended to be. A lie frozen in pixels. Reporters filled the room, cameras ready, microphones live. "How do we get in there?" Naomi asked. Marcus pointed to a side door. "Staff entrance. But once you're in, there's no walking back this." Cassian met Naomi's eyes. Last chance. She smiled, small, fierce. "I'm done running." They pushed through the door just as Victor began to speak. "Thank you all for coming." His voice was smooth, practiced. "I'm here today to address the events that occurred at my wedding 3 days ago. Events that have been misrepresented and weaponized by individuals with a personal vendetta." Cameras swung toward Cassian and Naomi as they entered. The room erupted in murmurs. Victor's face tightened. "Security, let them stay!" The voice came from the back of the room. "Alara, She stood near the rear wall wearing black instead of white, her face bare of the heavy makeup she'd worn at the wedding. She looked younger, harder. Victor turned, startled. "Elara, you don't need to be here." "Yes, I do." The room fell silent. Elara walked forward, her heels clicking on polished floor. She stopped beside the podium, studying Victor with an expression Cassian had never seen on her before. Contempt. "Go ahead," she said quietly. "Tell them your version." Victor's jaw clenched, but he turned back to the cameras, composing himself. "Cassian Wu is my wife's former fiancé. When our engagement was announced, he hired a woman, Naomi Vale, to pose as his partner and sabotage our wedding." He gestured to the screen behind him. "This was a calculated act of revenge, an attempt to humiliate us publicly." "That's not what happened," Naomi said. Every camera swung to her. "Then enlighten us, Ms. Vale." Victor's voice dripped acid. "Tell everyone how Cassian paid you $50,000 to play a role." "He did pay me. You're right about that." Naomi stepped forward, and Cassian saw something shift in her posture. Not defensive, not apologetic, just certain. "I needed the money. He needed a partner who wouldn't break under pressure. It was a transaction." Reporters scribbled furiously. But somewhere between the deal and the wedding, it stopped being about money. She looked at Cassian, then back at Victor. "It became about truth." "Truth?" Victor laughed, brittle, sharp. "You fabricated evidence. You accused me of infidelity with no proof. That's not truth, that's slander." "Is it?" Elara's voice cut through. "Tell them about Claire." Victor went pale. The room exploded with questions, but Elara raised her hand and silence fell like a guillotine. "Claire Donovan, 27, works for your family's PR firm." Elara's voice was steady, clinical. "You've been sleeping with her for 8 months. Marina District apartment. Cash payments to keep it quiet." Victor's mouth opened, closed. I don't know what I've known for 3 months." Elara turned to the cameras. "I found the receipts in his car, confronted him. He cried, apologized, promised it would stop." She looked back at Victor. "It didn't." "Elara, you proposed anyway. Planned a wedding, smiled for photographers, all while texting her during our engagement party." Her voice didn't waver. "So when Naomi Vale stood up at our reception and called you out, she wasn't fabricating anything. She was just saying what I was too afraid to admit." The room was silent except for camera shutters clicking like locusts. Victor's face crumbled. "You're making this worse." "No, you made it worse. I'm just done pretending." She turned to Cassian. For a moment their eyes met, years of history compressed into a single look. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, "for what I said when I left. You weren't the problem. I was just too scared to live in a world that wasn't perfect." Cassian's throat tightened. "Elara, but you were right about one thing." She smiled, sad, genuine. "Perfection is a cage, and I'm done living in mine." She walked out, leaving Victor standing alone at the podium like a monument to collapsed illusions. For a moment, no one moved. Then Victor's composure shattered completely. "This is insane," his voice rose, cracking. "You all heard her. She's not thinking clearly. The stress of the wedding, she's thinking more clearly than you've ever let her." Naomi's voice was quiet, but it carried. "And now everyone knows it." Victor's eyes blazed. "You destroyed my marriage." "Your marriage was already destroyed. We just held up a mirror." "You had no right. Neither did you." Cassian stepped forward. "You built a life on lies, sold Elara a fairy tale while you kept a mistress on the side, convinced yourself it was fine because the optics were perfect. You're one to talk about lies." Victor pointed at Naomi. "You paid her to pretend to love you." "I did." Cassian didn't flinch. And then something unexpected happened. It stopped being pretend. Naomi looked at him, something shifting in her expression. "So yeah," Cassian continued, "we started with a lie, but we ended with truth. Can you say the same?" Victor's hands trembled. "I want you arrested, both of you, for extortion, for..." The charges were dropped. Catherine Chen appeared from the side of the room, immaculate in a charcoal suit. "As of 6 hours ago, your complaint was withdrawn. Officially." "What? I never..." "Your father did. On advice from your family's legal team. She smiled, professional, merciless. Apparently they felt pursuing charges would expose certain financial irregularities that wouldn't look good under scrutiny. Victor's face went from red to white. You're bluffing. Call your father. Ask him about the 10 million Gerald Park moved through shell companies when you got engaged. Ask him if that was investment capital or a dowry. The room erupted again. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras swarmed. Victor stood frozen, a man watching his entire world collapse in real time. Then he did the only thing he had left. He walked out. No statement. No defense. Just a broken man in an expensive suit disappearing through a side exit while flashbulbs exploded like small suns. Cassian felt Naomi's hand slip into his. Is it over? She asked quietly. He looked around the room. Reporters already filing stories, producers screaming into phones. The machinery of public destruction grinding forward without them. Yeah, he said. It's over. They left through the service exit, avoiding the media circus erupting in the lobby. Marcus drove them back to the penthouse in silence, the city scrolling past the windows like a film reel of other people's lives. Upstairs, Cassian poured 2 drinks. Whiskey. Neat. Naomi took hers and walked to the window, staring out at the skyline. What happens now? She asked. It was the same question she'd asked outside the police station. But this time the answer felt different. I don't know, Cassian admitted. Victor's done. Alara's free. Gerald Park's probably getting a visit from federal agents as we speak. And us? He set his glass down and crossed to her. What do you want to happen? She turned, searching his face. I want to know if this was real. What part? All of it? The deal? The wedding? This? She gestured between them. Was any of it real? Cassian took a breath. The deal was real. The wedding was strategy. But this? He touched her face, fingers gentle on her cheek. This was never part of the plan. Good plans always fall apart, she murmured. Yeah, they do. She leaned into his touch. I'm scared. Of what? That we're only good in crisis. That when the chaos settles, we'll realize we don't actually work. It was a fear he recognized, the same one that had haunted him through 3 years of building an empire to fill the space Alara left. Maybe, he said honestly, or maybe we'll realize that what we built in the fire is stronger than anything we could have built in calm. That's optimistic. You're not usually optimistic. I'm learning, she smiled. From who? A sommelier who taught me that sometimes the best wines come from terrible conditions. Stress, poor soil, just enough hardship to make them interesting. That's a terrible metaphor. I know. I'm not good at this. Good. She kissed him, soft, slow. I don't need you to be good at it. I just need you to be honest. I can do that. They stood together as the sun set over the city, painting everything in shades of amber and shadow. Cassian's phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. Naomi pulled back. You should check that. Reluctantly, he did. A text from Marcus. News broke. Park under federal investigation. Victor's PR firm dropped him. Alara filed for annulment. It's a bloodbath. Cassian showed Naomi the screen. She read it, expression unreadable. Do you feel satisfied? No? Good. Revenge never feels as good as people think it will. Is that what you think this was? Revenge? She considered. At first, maybe, but not at the end. She set her glass down. At the end, it was just survival. He understood that. They'd both been surviving their whole lives, building armor, constructing performances, hiding the soft parts behind polish and steel. And then they'd collided, and the armor cracked, and somehow, impossibly, that had been the thing that saved them. I'm going to sell the business, Cassian said suddenly. Naomi turned. What? The empire. All of it. The properties, the investments, the whole operation. He looked around the penthouse. 30 floors of glass and steel and empty victories. I built it to prove I mattered, but it doesn't matter. Not really. Cassian, I want to build something different, something real. Like what? He met her eyes. I don't know yet, but I want to figure it out with you. She stared at him, something vulnerable flickering across her face. That's terrifying. Yeah, and stupid, probably. And you're serious? Completely. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, I want to open a wine bar. Small. Intimate. The kind of place where people actually taste what they're drinking instead of just ordering the most expensive bottle. Okay? That's it? Just okay? You want to fight? I can argue if you want. She laughed, genuine, surprised. No, no fights. She stepped closer. But I have conditions. Of course you do. Equal partnership, 50-50. I'm not your employee, I'm not your charity case. Agreed. And we do this right. No shortcuts. No using your connections to steamroll obstacles. That'll make it harder. Good. Hard things are usually worth it. He smiled. Anything else? Yeah. She took his hand. If this falls apart, if we crash and burn and lose everything, we don't blame each other. We just acknowledge it was a beautiful disaster and walk away clean. Deal. They shook on it, formal and ridiculous and completely sincere. Set. 3 months later, Cassian stood in an empty storefront in the arts district. Exposed brick, high ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows that let in afternoon light like liquid gold. Naomi walked through the space, measuring angles, envisioning layouts. Bar here, she said, pointing. Tables along the window. Wine storage in the back, temperature controlled. What about music? Live. Thursday through Saturday. Jazz, maybe. Or acoustic sets. Expensive. Worth it. Cassian watched her move through the space, completely in her element, and felt something settle in his chest. Not peace. That was too simple. But something close to purpose. They'd spent the past months liquidating his assets, navigating legal aftermath, dodging reporters. Gerald Park was facing federal charges. Victor had fled to Europe, last anyone heard. Alara had disappeared from public life entirely, though Cassian had heard through Marcus that she was doing okay. Quieter. Freer. And he and Naomi had built something neither of them expected. Not a relationship exactly. More like a partnership forged in fire and tempered by honesty. They fought. God, they fought. About design choices, about money, about whether to serve French wines or focus on domestic. But they didn't lie. And that made all the difference. What are we calling it? Cassian asked. Naomi turned. The bar? Yeah. She'd been thinking about this, he could tell. Vale and Wu. Your name first. Alphabetical. Bullshit. You want top billing. Damn right I do. I'm the one who knows wine. He laughed. Fair enough. The door opened. A woman walked in, early 20s, portfolio under her arm, nervous energy radiating off her in waves. Mr. Wu? Miss Vale? I'm here about the designer position. Naomi glanced at Cassian. He nodded. Come in, Naomi said. Show us what you've got. They spent the next hour reviewing sketches, discussing aesthetics, building something that belonged to all of them. And Cassian realized something. This messy, uncertain, beautiful process of creation, this was what he'd been missing. Not control, not dominance, collaboration. 6 months after the wedding that wasn't, Vale and Wu opened its doors. The space was everything they'd imagined. Warm lighting, carefully curated wine list, tables that encouraged conversation instead of performance. It was small, intimate, the opposite of Cassian's old empire. And it was packed, not with society elites or power brokers, just people who wanted good wine and honest atmosphere. Cassian worked the floor while Naomi handled the bar, moving through her element like she'd been born to it. At one point, she caught his eye across the room and smiled. Not the practice smile she'd worn at the wedding, the real one. He smiled back. Near midnight, after the last customers left and the staff finished cleaning, Cassian and Naomi sat at the bar with a bottle of wine they'd been saving. To survival, Naomi said, raising her glass. To something better than survival, Cassian countered. They clinked glasses. The wine was perfect, complex, layered, real. Think we'll make it? Naomi asked. The bar or us? Both, Cassian considered. I don't know, but I'm willing to find out. That's not very reassuring. It's honest. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Yeah, it is. They sat in comfortable silence, the city humming outside their windows, the weight of their shared history settling around them like a well-worn coat. Cassian had spent years building an empire to prove he was worth something, and he'd burned most of it to save a woman he'd hired to play pretend. The math didn't make sense, but the truth rarely did. Cassian? Yeah? Thank you. For what? For being stupid enough to fight for this. He pressed a kiss to her temple. Any time. Outside, the city continued its endless cycle. Deals made and broken, empires rising and falling, people pretending and performing and polishing surfaces that hid rot. But inside Vale and Wu, in a small bar built on honesty and hard work and the wreckage of two people who'd learned to stop lying, something different was happening. Something real. And that, Cassian thought as Naomi's breathing evened out against his shoulder, was worth more than any empire. 1 year later, Cassian received a letter. No return address. Just his name in elegant script. Inside, a single card. Thank you for showing me what courage looks like. I'm doing better. I hope you are too. E. He showed it to Naomi that evening. She read it, then set it down. You going to respond? I don't think so. Why not? Because some stories don't need epilogues. They just need to end. Naomi nodded. Fair. She took his hand, lacing their fingers together. Outside, rain started to fall, soft, steady, washing the city clean. And inside, two people who'd met as strangers playing roles sat together in the space they'd built from ruins, no longer pretending, no longer performing. Just being, flawed, honest, real. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.